boosting in Final Fantasy XIV is frowned upon by the community. However, there was this nice guy that made a beginner's guide for boosters, and he isn't just a nice guy, he's also a happy guy. It's Mr. Happy 1227 that made a video called "So You Boosted a Character in Final Fantasy XIV, Beginner's Guide for Boosters." And I'm really curious about this video, and today we'll learn about how boosters can still enjoy and learn the game. So yeah, be prepared for that. Let's have a look. That's actually funny.
So you've boosted a character in Final Fantasy XIV, or maybe you're thinking about it.
Don't do it. No, don't do it.
Why you should or shouldn't do it, but you probably want to make sure you get a few basic things down before hopping into group content. So consider this my beginner's guide to boosting.
I think it's so funny.
First off, in case you're curious about boosting a character in 14 in the first place, there are actually two types of boosts. The first is a job boost, called a One Hero's Journey in the
It's just for one job though.
This will level a job on a character up to 10 levels below max, which at the time of this video is level 70. It will provide you with your completed job quests, skills, some equipment, and some items you can sell to any common vendor to earn some gil. Then there
I could never see myself doing that. I'm actually really enjoying the job quests in Final Fantasy XIV. And my favorite one so far is maybe even like the ninja one, but the machinist one comes also close. I like both really a lot. I think they're really well designed. And yeah, if you guys are new to this channel, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Anyway, let's continue this.
There are story boosts or main scenario progression in the online store. These let you skip whichever expansion story is in the title and every expansion beforehand. So if you purchase the Stormblood skip, you would also...
Okay, I'm going to stay neutral on this, I promise.
It does also come with some more items to sell for gil. The job boost and the highest tier story boost cost $25 US each when not on sale. So boosting a character from absolutely nothing to, at the time of this video, one job at level
$50
70 and level 70 main story progression would run you about $50, and that'll update as more expansions come out. My advice, if you like healers or casters, grab these summoner or scholar boosts. These will actually get you 2 jobs leveled for the price of 1, but whichever one you don't buy is not going to have gear or any of its job quests completed.
Yeah, the job quests.
To grab your purchased items, find a delivery Moogle in any of the 3 locations shown on the screen once you've made your character. If you have any collector's edition items or anything like that, those will also be here as well. Also, if you eventually do want to go back and do the story that you skipped, there's actually a New Game Plus feature that lets you replay old story quests. It does not reward any experience points, so you're only going to use it to play the actual story. You can unlock this in Western Phanolin at Wistful Whitebeard at the location X12Y14.
Oh, that is actually good. So, wow. So if someone has boosted, they can still experience the story and go back. They just don't get any rewards for that, right? Wait, but what about like the pets and emotes and stuff that you get from the main story, like the Imperial Greeting and all? Like, what actually happens with those thingies that you get from the main quest? You're getting them automatically with a boost, or?
The unending journey in your
yeah, let me know in the comment section. I'm not sure.
And your story boost will actually drop you there, but not every scene is in there, I'm afraid. So you're in the game with your boosted character. You'll get a pop-up for the Hall of the Novice.
Missing so much good stuff.
Job boost, but we'll come back to that. Make sure to grab your gear and sellable items and get equipped. After that, you'll probably want to become a little familiar with the game itself. Maybe get familiar with the
dark side, gosh,
and your user interface. While you could watch one of my other videos on these things, I'll give you a brief overview now. For user interface settings, you'll want to head to your HUD layout located in your main menu. It can all be moved, size adjusted, and even modified in select ways, such as splitting buffs and debuffs, or changing your job gauge between simple.
I'm so glad that the game has this.
Up to 4 separate HUD layouts in case
you don't need to
change things up per job or for whatever reason. Your character configuration options also have a ton of settings, especially the user interface, display name, and hotbar settings. There's tons of things to check out and fiddle with, and it's all built into the game. I'll actually include a link to my own in-game settings in the description with instructions on how to install and use them on your own character if you're on PC, but I'd recommend just toying around and finding what's best for you. So once you got your hotbars laid out,
everyone likes it differently.
Where you want to put your skills. Odds are you're going to keep modifying your UI as you figure this out, though, so I don't think you're really done with that just yet. I expect most of you to change your setups pretty frequently as you unlock new skills and try to become familiar with things, but I like to identify a few things that I can use as...
You know, it's actually funny, or like my characters now are actually running out of space. So you have the CTRL second bar, right? And you have like the first bar goes from like 1 to like 9 or something. and I ended up like running out of it. Like I have some skills that I can no longer place in. So I have to now prioritize which skills I'm using, and I still don't know completely which skills are completely useless. Because I see some skills that are in a very niche situation. I'm not sure if I should keep them or not. So yeah, I have too many skills. I have like, especially on Ninja. Like on Machinist, I'm still somewhat okay, but on Ninja, I ran out actually of space.
Habits between every job. For example, I like to put combo actions in subsequent keys, such as 1, 2, 3 or Shift 1, 2, 3. And the same goes for AoE combos as well, maybe using control modifiers or something. Then I set up any extra buttons I have, extra single target or AoE skills, near these buttons, so that way I make sure everything is kind of segmented. That's just how my brain works. Cooldowns I'll stick on my
Okay, maybe I can use
mouse
Shift
or
too.
on other buttons that have rebound that are comfortable for my hands, and then I usually rebind a few more of them and resize them to track more important abilities. That's what that big hotbar is in the middle of my screen. Shift and control modifiers are big friends of mine, so I use them a lot, even with my mouse buttons, and I rarely go past number 5 on my actual keyboard. You'll have a lot of skills to mess with and figure out where you want to put them, so I recommend finding a training dummy in one of several zones, such as the Summerford Farms teleport, Western Thanolin, Central Shroud, Western Kurthus, and so on and so forth. Use your skills and experiment with your keybinds to find out what fits best. You can also change your keybinds in the main menu. Probably should have mentioned that earlier. Now, if you need the simplicities of your role explained to you, hit up the Hall of the Novice that popped up on your screen earlier. You can actually enter it from any NPC sporting this sprout-looking symbol over their head, normally in the main cities and a few other locations around.
I feel like you need to do that actually if you boost. If you don't do that, like you have skills and you have no clue what to do with them. I mean, you can watch like a lot of guide videos on YouTube, or you can check out the written ones. But I think like this actually with the novice, like I did those exercises on a DPS on my rogue back then, and I learned a lot on the rogue actually. Like it made things so much easier for me.
Symbol over their head.
Yeah, I recommend do this if you boost.
Around the world. It's really basic MMO stuff, but it gives you solid level 15 gear for that role, and a ring that'll increase EXP up to level 30. I know you just boosted a job to 70, but if you want to level any other job under level 30, this is going to be nice to have.
Yeah, you can just switch it.
Speaking of which, since you can play every job on one character, you should probably get used to saving gear sets using the armory system. Open this menu up in your character sheet and press the plus button at the top to add your
but boost the story sucks.
Now, anytime you want to swap between jobs, just click these to swap at a moment's notice. You can even drag them onto your hotbar if you want and make another hotbar for swapping jobs instead of coming to this menu. Next, one UI element you've probably noticed now is your scenario guide. This will alert you to the location of your next story quest, which no matter what you did in terms of boosting or not, you're going to have to play through these quests if you want to get to some of the newer stuff. You can skip the cutscenes if you want, and you probably will if you've already skipped the boost up to this point, but I'll leave that up to you. The scenario guide also recommends important quests that you should do. Whenever there's a small quest underneath the big story one, definitely do it ASAP. The one you have after you boost should be a quest that unlocks your Chocobo fighting companion, which you can make heal or tank or DPS for any open.
Oh, I love my Chocobo.
And it also gives you access to the Chocobo saddlebag, which gives you some bonus inventory slots when you're not in an instance. If you need even more storage, head to a retainer vocate at a major city.
And get 2.
By default, you can hire up to 2 retainers that can store items, sell them on the market, and eventually even run errands for you and level up.
For a video, what a name.
To save yourself many headaches in the future. And finally, before we start continuing with your actual leveling process, learn to identify quest types. Quest symbols tell you how important a quest is at just a glance. The big meteor symbol looking ones are the main scenario quests, and you'll just be using your scenario guide for those anyway. The blue exclamation mark ones unlock new features, such as dungeons or aesthetics, and the rest are just normal quests. There are some other quest markers for things like repeatable quests or smaller NPC interactions, but they still follow a similar color convention to the normal quests. Alright, so you're all set and ready to start your adventure. Just follow your scenario guide along and complete the quests it recommends. If you want to do side quests, feel free. They do reward some gil and other useful items, but you don't really have to do all of them. The ones in Shadowbringers areas also scale.
Wait a second, so if you boost, like, cause I see this here in the corner, so you get like 1 million gil as well if you're boosting or what? Cause I was just thinking that like if you boost and you don't have any freaking gil, right? Like you're freaking broke, I thought. But I guess they give you a bit of it, like 1 million in this case or so. Okay, it's interesting. But that's also funny because I had almost the amount from just playing the story quest, and I'm not even like 70, I'm like over 50, and I had like already, what did I have, like 600k, 700k? And I was just doing a couple of dungeons and main story. But wow, that's actually really close when I think about it. If I go for like another 20 levels, I'll probably have like 1,200,000, 300k. So it's actually close.
To your level, so you can choose to save them for alternate job leveling if you get that far. Also, any aetherites or small ethernets you see, whether they be in cities or zones,
oh, you need to otherwise you can fast travel.
Teleport around the world map or cities themselves using the teleport menu. Or
you need this for fast travel.
Ethernets in town. While you're exploring the world, you'll also want to work on unlocking flying in each zone as soon as possible. Since you boosted, you'll be able to fly in all of the old zones from the previous
I hate this. I hate this so much on Heaven's Ward, to be honest. Like, you have to go and find those ether currents and attune yourselves. And sometimes I have like all except for like one or so, and I have no clue where this is. And then I have to use like this kind of compass, and it just says go this and this direction. And I don't know. I find it a bit annoying to attune myself to the currents. I think it would be better if you do like half the main quest in a certain zone, that it gives you automatically the flying, but you have to manually do it. I find it a little bit annoying, to be honest, but it's okay. I got used to it.
Whatever expansions you haven't skipped, you'll need to unlock it. Fortunately, it's not too bad. This will be done by collecting ether currents around the map and also earning some currents from completing several quests in each zone. In order to more quickly find currents, you'll need an ether compass. Since you boosted, you won't have one by default.
If you miss just one or two, or like a side quest.
Walger's Reach and speaking to Goffred in this location on the map. He'll give it to you, and then you just have to go to your key items and drag it somewhere on your hotbar so you can press it frequently when you're looking for currents.
Yeah.
Mind you that the first two zones you visit in Shadowbringers can't unlock flying on the first visit. You only get to explore about half the map, so don't get hung up on those. You'll usually unlock flying in a zone by the time you finish every main scenario quest in that zone, assuming you've been discovering the currents around the map and doing blue exclamation mark quests that reward currents as well. Now, when you hit level 71, or sometime after you hit 71, you'll gain access to a dungeon, Holminster Switch. This is the first dungeon you can do that allows you to access the trust option. This lets you run the dungeon with NPCs instead of other players, at the cost of the NPCs being inferior to players, at least on average.
You can run with Affinauto. No, that's actually funny. I haven't unlocked this yet, but that's interesting. So Affinauto is a scholar job. Okay, that's interesting. Guard Captain.
At the cost of the NPCs being inferior to players, at least on average. This is the perfect opportunity for you to practice your job or role before getting into any group.
Yeah, you can practice tank well, I think, on this. Someone told me if I pick up tank, I should do this.
Low-level dungeons that are in your duty finder before you actually are used to any of your skills or anything like that. Either you'll be queuing into low-level stuff where you don't have all your skills and you can't get used to it, or you'll be queuing into things that are maybe a little bit too confusing if you don't understand the game just yet. I definitely recommend just repeating Holminster Switch as much as possible with your trusts until you feel more comfortable. You'll need to access the trust menu in your duty options to repeat it after the first time, as shown on the screen.
But you can farm stuff with that, right? Well,
now, while doing the dungeon, take your time to understand the various markers and game systems that are present. You know, understand that on big groups, you want to AoE monsters. On bosses, you want to focus on your single target skills. Make sure if you're a tank, you're using your cooldowns, your defensive ones. Make sure you're not leaving your offensive abilities untouched as well. Just try to understand where all of your buttons function in any given fight.
I feel like for someone that boosted in Final Fantasy XIV, this must be a super frustrating experience, actually, like the first dungeons, because, like, when you think about it, if you're like level 20 or 30, you maybe have like 7 skills you rotate around, or like 6. It depends what kind of job. Usually you have like maybe like 7 skills you use quite frequently when you're like level 20 plus, right? But what is if you have suddenly like 14 skills or 12 skills you rotate around or something like that, and then you like don't even know what is, and I don't think you can memorize stuff so quickly. You need to read like multiple times and use it multiple times to understand. Like when I was first playing, let's say Machinist, for example, I have like this sort of heat gauge, right? Like with heat shots. And I didn't know like what I should do when this pops. Should I use this? Then would this like refresh certain skills? And I had like no clue. And I was not weaving it so perfectly, because I kept shooting those thingies, and I had like 2 loads again. And then I didn't use my loads, right? So I kept shooting it, and I actually missed on DPS. I missed out on DPS because of that, because I didn't know how this with the heat shot works, right? And then I did like, I think 2 dungeons or so, and then I figured it out.
Also, look at what the bosses are doing. There's markers that deal stack damage. They look very similar in every fight in the game. Identify what a tank buster looks like or how you can predict that one is coming, and the same with room-wide attacks.
Tank
Learn to use
busters.
the aggro list or the focus target keybinds to keep track of what the enemies are casting. Then, more advanced things such as numbered markers or enemies raising an arm to mean that you probably shouldn't stand on that side of the room. There's lots of little things that you can look at and see here that'll be pretty consistent across the rest of the game. And this is only one dungeon. I mean, from this point on,
That's
the
a
process
long
just kinda
tongue, right?
repeats itself until max level. Treat every dungeon kind of similarly, and you'll pick up a lot along the way. You'll have a few 8-man bosses along the way as well, a ton of solo instances, and then a more handful of dungeons. Try to keep your gear up to date from quests and dungeons along the way, and you'll be A-okay. Once you hit 80, the game opens up a ton. I could go on for this section for an hour, but since I'm making this video at the end of the
Wow.
expansion, I'm just going to give you a few recommendations before Endwalker releases. First, get some gear. You'll probably be around item level 430 when you finish the initial level 80 story quest, but you got several more patches of story quests to do before you're caught up for Endwalker. You have the option to buy gear off the market board, earn it from dungeons or raids, or farm tomestones, which is like an endgame currency, and you earn it from a ton of endgame activities such as dungeons in order to buy upgrades for your gear.
I've made myself a goal when I'm like at end game. I will of course try to beat like the hardest content. I also want to clear some ultimates, at least one. And what I will do then, also when it's maybe like a bit later, not so many people are doing dungeons, I will pick up a completely brand new job that I haven't played or leveled yet. I'm thinking about like either Conjurer or even like Black Mage, maybe like Paladin or so. And I will do like the whole job quest line and everything, and I will just quest through again with a job. And I don't know, I might even repeat the story at some point on a new job, just to get like a different feeling how it is if I would have played as, let's say, a Black Mage or so. But hey, let's see.
Allegory tomestones give item level 490 stuff, and the weekly capped revelation tomestones give item level 520 stuff, which can then be further upgraded to 530 with items from various activities.
So many
raids.
stats
The
this stuff
fastest
has,
way to
right?
a raid ready item level is to buy item level 510 gear off the market board. Only ever buy HQ gear when purchasing it for upgrades. Normal quality gear has significantly worse stats and should be saved for things like glamour. You can buy a full set of item level 510 gear, which immediately puts you at a high enough item level to tackle anything in the game really, though just barely for the more recent stuff. It will cost you a pretty penny though, but fortunately you should have a decent amount of gil from getting to level 80. That 510 stuff can even be upgraded to item level 520. Purchase Crystalline Reins for 100 Allegory Tomes apiece and trade in your HQ item level 510 gear for tokens. It's kind of convoluted though, so be careful going through the menus if you're gonna opt into this. But that's not it. The most recent tier of raids are also great for gear. The normal 8-man raid, Eden's Promise, gives tokens to exchange for item level 510 gear, and the Savage difficulty gives item level 530. You'll want some basic item level 510 stuff before attempting
That's
Savage,
the highest,
before you
right?
even get to Eden's
530.
Promise, you'll have to do a few of the previous raid tiers that have come out. The 24-man raid for Shadowbringers also gives some decent gear. The Tower at Paradigm's Breach, the most recent one, drops item level 520 gear with upgrade materials for the Revelation Tomestone gear to take that to item level 530. Although you'll need to do all the 24-mans, I guess, to do that. Finally, there's Bozja. This series comes
Yeah, that's my goal, 520, 530 gear.
525 gear, and even the best weapon in the Shadowbringers expansion, the Resistance weapon. You'll need to backtrack and complete the Stormblood 24-man raid series to access it, but it requires no item level to participate, so you wouldn't have to buy anything to get into this, and can even be used to level alternate jobs from levels 71 to 80 very effectively.
Wow, okay, that's
Also
cool.
Extreme Trials, which can just net you weapons along the way. Only the most recent one's going to have that important of an item level for weapons, and there is one Extreme Trial that drops in.
That's how I will level my Gunbreaker, because I want to pick up Gunbreaker, and from what I was told, I think it's like, is it 60 that you start on? Out? Yeah, I think it's like 60, right, for Gunbreaker. I can max my Gunbreaker, I can try tanking. Or even Dark Knight, let's see.
Some gear, but it's largely outdated stuff at this point. That's going to be an activity that you just decide to tackle as someone who's trying to learn more about the game, or maybe farm a specific mount from one of them. Now, on all the gear you're getting, you probably noticed they have some slots on them. You can actually affix jewels called materia to these slots.
Oh,
to
very
improve your stats
important,
up to a
because you
specific
miss out many
value
stats if you
using a
don't do
process
that.
called melding. It's really just a couple of button presses, but as a boosted character, you may notice that the materia melders in the towns won't actually let you access this process. You're going to have to go do a couple of quests in order to make sure you have more of the materia related stuff.
Like, just look at the numbers. You get immediately plus 60 more or so per stone.
And head to a small
That's a
goblet
lot
to the north.
when you have this on all
Complete the
pieces.
non-locked quests there to get melding, transmuting, and extracting actions for materia.
I did that
The locked
already.
quest requires you to have a low-level crafter and is used to unlock a more advanced melding process that you shouldn't have to worry about as the time.
Kokozamu, that
You can always
name.
find another video on that process, and it'll be relevant eventually, but not right now. Now that you have it unlocked, you can go to most major locales in the more recent expansions, Rulger's Reach, Yulemoor, any of those locations, and you'll find materia melder NPCs that will speak to you now that you've completed those quests. Use these to affix stats onto your armor, but be wary if it says the stat cannot be increased anymore. If you pick up materia while...
One second. Can you actually remove that? I've never tried to remove those stones. Is it like a one-time thingy? And you can like ruin your gear, or you can just remove them again? Because I never tried to like replace anything. So I'm not sure. But I think you can remove them, right?
While leveling, throw it on there, and before getting into any serious endgame activity, be sure to load up on materia on your gear as well. Ask around for melding advice and either buy or earn materia in a number of different ways. Now there's a million and one things I could steer you towards from here, but I think this just covers the basics that you probably need to know or want to know if you just boost it.
Wow.
I have a ton of videos, some more directly.
I'm quite impressed by this guide actually.
Some more on older activities that are still relevant. Browse around my channel, and if you need a video on something, odds are I have you covered. If not, I'm sure one of the other amazing content creators this game has will get you covered instead. But that's going to be a wrap for my video on, I guess, my beginner's guide for boosting Final Fantasy XIV. If you have more questions, be sure to stop by my live stream. I stream every day from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. Pacific. It's not always Final Fantasy XIV, but even if I'm not playing it, feel free to hop in and ask a question, or just come by and enjoy any of the other games I might be trying out on my live stream. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share for this video, this channel.
Yeah, don't forget to subscribe.
Coming out before Endwalker and after. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you all in the next one, and until then, take care.
Wow, guys, I'm actually quite impressed by this beginner's guide for boosters, because I wouldn't have expected someone to actually make a guide for boosters, because boosters are like really frowned upon. Like, oh, I remember Quinn. Oh, Quinn. Like how people freaked out when Quinn boosted. Like, we should send this to freaking Quinn. Does anyone have like Quinn's email? No, I'm just kidding. Oh, poor Quinn. Like, I wish people would have given him like at least like a chance, even though he boosted, and not just rage and stuff. I actually wonder if Quinn will ever try Final Fantasy XIV again. Maybe we can get him back and we can like show him this guide and he can still do the story or so. Oh, that's funny. Oh, but seriously, that's a very good guide, and this with the UI. Actually, you know what's funny? I didn't boost, but I learned stuff from this guide. Like, I didn't boost, but I learned stuff. Because this with shift, I actually didn't think about it. Maybe I'm stupid or something. So you know how like on the UI, you have like, of course you have like the CTRL bar, right? Like the second one. And I didn't know you can actually use shift to also give the third one freaking numbers. And you can like shift 1, 2, 3 and stuff. Yo, I have to do that. I didn't know that. Like, I kept like mouse clicking on some skills because I didn't know I can actually do that. Oh, wow. Yeah. I can't wait till I can run freaking dungeons with an NPC. With NPCs. So I can also level characters, right? And then there's like this one thingy at level 70 that gets me to 80. So if I'm like leveling a, let's say, gunbreaker, I can max it that way. That's fascinating. Cool guide. Like, very good job by Mr. Happy. He really mentioned like everything that's important. Also that with like the class practice, right? And wow. Yeah, you should go to the smith and do this if you boost it. Learn your freaking job. Are you a tank? Are you a healer? And this tutorial will help you out. Because you're given like an NPC that, like, I remember I did this also as a healer. And you get like this one NPC, right? And you have to like freaking heal this NPC through and stuff. It helps you learn the job a lot, I think. But yeah, guys, that's it for today's video. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing. I would also really appreciate if you like this video. This will help out with the YouTube algorithm. And I wish everyone a wonderful day. Please stay all safe and healthy. And I will see you guys next time.